There are many reports that we can create from the opportunity list view, and they all can be used to track sales. They all can be used to help us to know where we're going and how we're going to get there in regards to sales. Well, the first thing that we need to know, though, is we need to know that we're looking at all the information. So if we've been going through and looking at probabilities and playing with the numbers as we have, then the first thing we might want to do is click on Reset. When we click on Reset, notice it sets everything back to all. And that way we know that we're looking at all of the numbers. Once we do that, if we want to see more of the list, we can also click on Hide Filters up at the top. And notice that just takes away all of the filters, because now we know we're looking at all of the information. We could filter it and then look at the reports. It just depends on how you want to look at it. In this case, what we want to do is see all of the information. And notice that I have gone through and opened up some new opportunities. Some of those that were closed, I just reopened them so we could have some more to see on our pipeline. You would open up new opportunities just by creating new opportunities, just like we talked about. And what I want to do is I want to look at one of the most common types of reports that salespeople use, and that's what's called the sales pipeline. We used to call it the sales funnel, but now the correct term to use is the sales pipeline. And so there's a lot of different ways to get to it. We could click on Contacts, come down to Opportunities, and notice then we have the Opportunity Pipeline. We could also, and much faster, go up to the menu bar and position yourself over the icon that says Opportunity Pipeline. Click on Opportunity Pipeline. Now, we can change the colors of the pipeline, and we can decide which process we're going to look at. In this case, we're going to look at the sales cycle, the ACT sales cycle, but if we had another process that we had defined for our company, then we could create the whatever colors we want for the pipeline. Doesn't really matter as long as you can see the colors. Sometimes people like to, for example, under sales fulfillment, want to make that green instead of needs assessment. So maybe we switch those. If we wanted to do that, then we position ourselves over needs assessment, click on it, and then let's say we want to make needs assessment yellow. And then what we want to do is we want to make when we see the money, right, when we actually get the sale, then we want to make that green. Well, what does that do for us? Well, let's click on Graph. And as you can see, what we have is a nice graph that says, okay, well, you've got 4 deals that are in initial communication. You have 0 right now that are in needs assessment. But that's okay because you've got some that have already gone through needs assessment to negotiation. If all you had was 4 deals that were in initial communication and all the rest of this was zeros, then I would have an issue, right? Then we would have an issue with the salesperson because they're not actually following those through. But if we have 4 in initial communication and then some others that are spread out through here, this is pretty healthy depending on what we're selling and depending on how many we need to have in the pipeline. But this is just an example. We've got 1 that's in presentation stage, 2 that are in negotiation stage, 1 that has a commitment to buy. As far as sales fulfillment, we don't have any right now, but we've got 1 that's a commitment to buy. Depends on how big that deal is as to how we would look at that. So as you can see a lot from a pipeline. You can't see the totals necessarily from the pipeline as far as the totals of numbers, but that's not what we're trying to look at. What we're trying to look at is this person actually pushing things down through the pipeline. If we had a lot of things stuck up here and not coming back through the pipeline, then we know that we have a problem. So the pipeline tool is a great way to just understand what's going on in the sales process of a salesperson, and very easy to create with ACT. But we can also create more tools. We can also use the details that are in ACT, and we can use them very quickly by using another Microsoft tool, a Microsoft tool called Excel. If we position ourselves over the icon in the toolbar, that has the Excel green X on it, and then click on Export to Excel, then Excel opens up and we actually then see the Excel spreadsheet. And an Excel spreadsheet then can have whatever totals we want on it. In other words, we can have all the totals for all the sales. We can then, once we have this in Excel, I'm going to scroll over so you can see that. Once we have all this information in Excel, then we can manipulate this information in any way that we want. And the more you know about Excel, then the more you'll be able to use this information. It even creates a pivot chart. Now, pivot charts are cool if you know what to do with the pivot chart. Now, if somebody doesn't really know what to do with the pivot chart, then I'd suggest taking some Excel classes. But with a pivot chart, I can take a look from any perspective, from totals, weighted totals, and simply just click, and I can use that pivot chart to see the information that I want to see from whatever angle I want to see it. We can take a look at the opportunities based on the pivot chart, right? The digital information based on the pivot chart that we use. So in other words, what we can do is we can take the information, we can say, but what if, and then we can look at it on the graph, and then if we need to, look at it on the Excel spreadsheet. And as I said, the better you are with Excel, the more this information will be valuable to you that can be pulled straight from ACT. So as you can see, just the built-in information, just the built-in tools in ACT give us a tremendous amount of power. But we can also create database designs of our own. We can create new databases, we can customize fields in databases, and so we're going to take a look at database design next.